What's up, everybody? You're listening to Hollywood Unlocked Uncensored. I am Melissa Ford, a.k.a. The Curve Queen. The tyrant, Jason Lee, is not in the building, but we're holding it down for him.
Thank you, Jesus.
We love you, Jason.
Yo, what's up, your boy Giovanni? Hold on. I can't get it today, man.
I know. I think I saw you on a stage last night. A little stage called the BET Awards.
Hey, man, God is good.
Okay, well, we'll get into that a little bit later. Yes, well, we'll do that after we introduce our guests. We have got Zoe Williams here from the Zoe Williams Show here at Dash Radio.
Welcome back again, man.
Yeah, friend of the show, great personal friend of mine.
Appreciate it.
Oh, I just love you so much.
The viewers love you, man, so we're happy that you're back.
Oh, man, I appreciate coming back, man. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. And today we have a very distinguished guest. You know, we like to class up the joint every once in a while. So we've got Bakari Sellers.
Bakari.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, like, what are your favorite, identifiers? Because here's the identifiers I have on my cheat sheet, right? American politician and attorney.
That's crazy.
Somebody's been hanging out on Wikipedia. That's what that is.
And that is our researcher, Kelvin. Kelvin, I'm going to get your motherfucking ass.
And he's black.
I was in the South Carolina State House of Representatives for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I was the youngest black elected official in the country. I ran for lieutenant governor in 2014. And
talk that talk.
Now I'm an attorney and political commentator on CNN.
What type of attorney, though? Criminal?
You got issues? Call me.
Shit. Hysterical. Little do you know.
The price goes up on the West Coast, though.
Hey, that's okay, man. As long as you keep my ass from behind them bars.
Yeah, no, I do everything but family law. I always tell people that domestic stuff, nobody wins but the lawyer, so I can't.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Where are you legally allowed to practice law?
Well, I mean, we usually work with other attorneys in various states, but we work in Georgia. We work in, of course, South Carolina, North Carolina, New York, Florida. We can travel if need be. And if we need to come out here to Cali.
Well, it sounds like somebody got to have a budget to hire you.
No, I need a budget now. I got to pay student loans back.
Got to do that.
This ain't free.
I know. Shit. Not cheap either.
But you on the BET award stage, so.
Man, that was just a little speckle of sand. That's the grain of sand thrown on the beach, bro.
Well, with one rock star, it's a huge wave across the country.
That was deep, man. That was like my third or fourth. No, that was actually my fifth rodeo on the BET Awards. But I had a great time. Thank you to Hi-Hat and thank you to Tyrell Washington and Trina for asking me to be a part of what the viewers are saying, the best performance of the night.
Meek Mill
featuring Miguel.
Yes,
Stay Woke. And it was just fun bringing that song to life.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were going to make it today.
You
were sounding like you were like death
that visual was dope. I don't know. I appreciated Boot Up though, because she needed the whole stage, but I go in on Boot Up though.
The thing about that song people don't know is like 2 years old, but it just blew up, and I hate that she didn't get on that bigger stage.
She's
a new face, shout out to DJ Mustard. That's his artist, and
really?
They cut her off because of Jamie Foxx's old ass.
Oh, really?
Okay, well, this show's about to go viral.
Well, no, I love Jamie. I'm trying to get invited to the next house party. So, Jamie, what's up? How you? I can come
What's
out
up?
there.
How are you?
I think we might be able to arrange that.
Oh, that's a breeze.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just jump right in and ask. I'm going to go off of the cheat sheet because I'm going to need you to explain some things to us.
I do my best.
So it said you represented South Carolina's 90th district in the lower house of the state legislature from 2006 to 2014. That is a mouthful.
What?
And I'm highly intelligent. I'm like, what does all that mean?
What does this mean?
So basically, in most state legislators, you have a House and a Senate, and they always refer to the House as the lower house. So I was in the House of Representatives. I wasn't in the state Senate. And so, like Conjunction Junction, how a bill becomes a law, you dream up something, it goes through subcommittee all the way around through the House and then back through the Senate and hopefully at the governor's desk. And so, one of the things that the way that I transitioned from being in the South Carolina State House to being on CNN after I lost my election for lieutenant governor, being a Democrat in the South is very difficult. Being a black young Democrat in the South is even more difficult. I was working with one of my good friends, Clemente Pinckney, on various issues, expanding Medicaid, taking the Confederate flag down. And as many of you all know, Clem was one of the 9 people. He was actually the pastor of Mother Emanuel AME Church, and he was one of the 9 people gunned down by Dylan Roof. And so you always to kind of fill this circle, you always have to be prepared for your opportunities, just as you were last night. My opportunity was born out of tragedy. And so when CNN called, they call me from a private number.
Wow.
And I always tell people, if somebody calls you from a private number, it's one of 2 people. It's either somebody very important or it's a student loan company calling.
I was going to say, it's a
money
bill
back.
collector.
Trying to find you.
Right.
We're going to find you.
So I picked up, and my life has been a blessing ever since.
Okay, so let's talk about that. A lot of people, reference tragedy. It's like a bookmark in all of our lives. For me, 9/11 bookmarked my first year to the day that I moved to the U.S., and my anniversary was marked by tragedy. And, I had all my Canadian friends and family saying, "Are you coming home now?" I'm like, they're going to have to bomb my house for me to leave the States. It's not happening. I'm not coming back to Toronto. It's like a book I read a long time ago. Chapter closed. What was it like being, a citizen, like growing up in South Carolina? The church was like one of the most,
One of the oldest AME churches in the in the country. I mean, that church has been going. It went through so much. I mean, it was burned down. They had underground churches for a long period of time. It would rise like the phoenix always, and the church is doing extremely well now. When I'm in Charleston, when you guys are in Charleston, South Carolina, I'd suggest that all of you all go to Charleston. 60% of all of our people came in bondage through Charleston, South Carolina. It's a good place to be and see. But for me, when that incident occurred, it wasn't necessarily a chapter closed, because I now have to live for all of those people and now have to speak for all of those people. When my father was in the civil rights movement, he would carry a picture of Emmett Till in his wallet. Wow. And so for me, I just, Jennifer Pinckney, Clem's wife, he has 2 little girls. I have to be an example and do those things necessary. So it's not necessarily a chapter close. It's one that's always living and breathing.
Right. Okay, so as a Democrat, is the term snowflake usually applied to Democrats or people who are, or liberals or whatever the case is?
I mean, that's what.
It would be
it's ironic because that's what Trump calls us. But
it's
I'm
funny.
blocked by Trump though, so I mean, I'm not
on
the
Instagram.
I was going to say.
Trump ain't got no. He'd be in trouble on Instagram.
He blocked you.
He blocked you?
He blocked me on Twitter. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Can you imagine the DMs Trump sliding in on Instagram now? I actually, my wife gets on me all the time because for Instagram, if you don't know how to use it, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know for a long period of time that other people could see the pictures you were liking.
Yeah, that's how 90% of these brothers get caught up.
So my wife was like, "Why you?"
Here we go.
I mean,
Here we go.
Why you
and
liking manifesting
yeah.
Mary's picture?
So then I realized that I'm doing way too much when when you open up Instagram and then you gotta hide it because
Right.
at a certain time, like World Star just loses its mind. They just lose their complete mind on Instagram, and so no, he blocked me on Twitter. And I had the opportunity to meet the current president once. We were in Manchester, New Hampshire, and
Current president. I like that term.
I mean, that's what he is. I mean, he is the president America deserves.
Yeah.
And so we'll deal with that when the time comes.
Wow, that's a heavy statement.
Damn.
It really
Jeez.
okay.
That
So,
was
but
so
wait.
Take off from the free throw line, then. Why don't you?
One
With a
foot on the
blindfold
line.
on. Like, jeez.
But what led to him blocking you? Like, was it a
I have
succession?
no idea.
It was, you don't know?
I mean, he's a snowflake.
Melania probably thought you was attractive.
What did you say to him?
I have
You
no
said
idea.
something.
For me, I like to be honest and truthful. I always tell people I like to hold my people accountable first, because then I can hold them accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can't talk about black folk the way I want to talk about black folk, then I
Right.
can't talk about them. And apparently he got in his feelings about something.
Can I just ask you this question?
Sure.
As a black Republican,
I'm not a
No,
Republican.
he's a Democrat. Sorry,
He's a Democrat?
that
I was
rumor
like,
got started,
Come on,
and it was a bad.
I was about to come for him. Like,
Yeah, no.
So you're not a Republican?
No, I served as a Democrat. I was
Okay,
born.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Ooh, I was about to come for the guillotine.
Yeah, I know you were waiting. You teased that.
He
teed it
more
up.
than woke.
Some people are too woke though. Some people need to take a nap.
Is there such thing as too woke?
Yes.
Yes.
So you're a little too woke.
I would like to
No,
hear
he's
this.
not.
I'm
No,
interested.
yeah.
I mean,
No, they're-
I'm interested in the philosophy.
Okay.
There are people who attempt to find. There are people who attempt to judge your blackness at every single step.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, wherever there's judgment, there's sleep. There's no wokeness in judgment.
Listen, the
Maybe
shit you
we're
just
talking
said
past
sound
each
like
other.
you're too
Yeah,
woke.
I think
Maybe we're saying the same thing.
That just happened.
Yeah. All right. We agree.
We're passing in the night. We're good.
We're good.
He just needed an explanation as to what does too woke mean. But that's pretty much.
I'm
that's,
good now.
That's pretty much
I
it.
got
Okay.
insomnia.
Okay, so you are the son of Gwendolyn Sellers and civil rights activist and professor Cleveland Sellers.
Correct.
So I was gonna ask, how
What?
does calm down, Gio?
Wow.
Just put the paper down.
That's huge.
That's line 2.
Right there. It is. I did read that too.
Bakari.
Yeah.
Over here.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I was going to ask, how does a young black boy from South Carolina aspire to get into the world of politics? But I mean, that kind of makes a little bit more sense. What was it? What was it like growing up with a civil rights activist and a university professor as a father? And
so my mom was a university professor as well as my dad. My dad ended up becoming president of a college. But you know, they kind of instilled in us this insatiable desire to learn as much as possible.
Okay.
So you were always on this journey just to be. And my parents always would say, you can go to any college as an undergrad, we'll pay for it, as long as it's an HBCU.
Of course.
So there was always a catch. You know, you could go, and they expected us to go to graduate school and all of that other stuff. But my father was the civil rights activist part of this. My father went to Howard University. His best friend was a young man named Stokely Carmichael. Stokely graduated from Howard, convinced my father to drop out of school. My father joined SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, was there when it was founded. He went to Philadelphia, Mississippi to search for the bodies of Goodman, Turner, and Cheney during Freedom Summer. He was involved in the most deadly civil rights demonstration this country's ever seen.
Wow.
February 8th, 1968, 3 students were killed at South Carolina State: Henry Smith, Samuel Hammond, and Delano Middleton. 28 were wounded. My father was wounded. All 9 officers who fired shots into the group of students were tried. They were all found not guilty. They actually identified my father when he was shot in the hospital, arrested him, denied his bond, housed him on death row while they denied his bond. They deemed him to be an outside agitator. He was charged, tried. It was a jury of 10 whites and 2 blacks, and he was convicted. Jesus. And I always tell people my father is the first and only one-man riot in the history of this country. He was charged, tried, and convicted of rioting, sentenced to a year. He was originally looking at 75 years in prison.
That sounds about right.
And he ended
Sounds about white.
Yeah. The irony is that this is going to blow many people's minds, but the irony is that a Democratic governor, Bob McNair in South Carolina at the time, put him in jail. And a Republican governor, Carroll Campbell, in the early 90s actually pardoned my father. And so what I tell people is my father's sacrifice, being shot, being imprisoned, he'll tell you the greatest sacrifice was being in jail while my sister was born. Her middle name is Abedeme. It's Swahili. It means born while father's away.
Wow.
And so we just, we live our life aspiring to be a part of something larger than we are.
Your household sounds really cerebral.
Yeah, I want to come and eat dinner there, man.
So this how crazy it is. On Friday, you're welcome.
So
on Friday, you got it. On Friday, we eat spaghetti and fried fish.
It just sounds like
during the summers, my mom cooks chili and cornbread.
You serious?
Chili and cornbread.
See, we got an open door policy.
From what you're talking about your past and your family, that's just this. So I can imagine other stories and other things to learn. Like, so just eating dinner at your house with your mom and dad, sister, and that's a good time.
Yeah, we talk about life. When Clem was shot that night, I found out I was actually at a fundraiser for Hilary Clinton 3 years ago. It's like 3 years ago, this past 3 years ago, a week, 10 days ago. This happened, and I called my dad, and my dad, we talked about the fact that we are having many of the same shared experiences. My father
I was going to ask that. So your father is still with us?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what is your father's perspective on the fact that it seems like history is just repeating itself? Now we just have cell phones and cameras at every turn to be able to, see what's actually happening, that really not much has changed. I mean, like, how would that feel to somebody who, marched for civil rights in the 60s to see that we seem to have not taken one step forward and maybe 2 steps back? Or what's his perspective?
It's interesting because he now leaves this race up to us. My father and many people in his generation, they've run as fast, as hard as they can.
Does he think that we're doing a good job, though?
So really? my father's the guy who, in Baton Rouge, for example, after Alton Sterling was killed, my father's the guy who'll call and be like, "Hey, this is what you need to do, Bakari. Call all your friends in Black Lives Matter and tell them, please stop protesting at night." He said, because people will do under the cover of darkness what they would not do during the day. It's like we lost so many people at night that just went missing and disappearing, and we thought they would be at the jail, and we don't know where they are. So for their safety, because he doesn't criticize the protest or how he loves it. But he
just is concerned for everybody's safety.
And he'll teach you about different protest tactics because he lived it. I mean, he did it.
Bakari, your father being a part of, the civil rights movement and SNCC and all of that, for some, you would think seeing all of this change, this radical change from the time he got, active and involved till now, you would think someone who's seen as much as he's seen would be cynical with regards to the political process. But I want to know what his thought process is.
The crazy part is he's seen it before. Mm-hmm. Like, people think that Donald Trump is new.
Right.
Like, I refer
but we
to,
do.
But Donald Trump ain't new. Donald Trump is like George Wallace, like 2.0. Like they've seen Bull Connor like roll out, and spray young people with. They've seen the dogs. They've seen the fire hoses. This is not new, and they've seen America grow out of it.
But his abuse of his social media to promote propaganda and lies, outright lies.
Yeah, are you talking about Richard Nixon or Donald Trump? See, it's
kind of the same thing.
It's the same
exactly.
thing.
At least Richard Nixon faced retribution for that shit. I'm still waiting for the impeachment.
There has to become a time. Let me just say this politely, because this footage lasts forever. That Republicans will have to display some testicular fortitude.
I'm using that. I don't know how I'm going to use it.
No, that's not for you. That's on this side of the table. But go ahead. Finish your statement, sir.
Ovary fortitude is for you.
I have figurative balls.
Fallopian fortitude.
So there's going to become a time when they're going to have to display that, and we'll see. I mean, I feel we would not be having the conversations we're having today if Hillary Clinton was president.
Let me ask you about.
I don't know.
I concur with you, Zoe.
Nah, I think that the heightened conversations we're having about race right now, we would be in a level of comfortability if Hillary Clinton was president.
I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with him. I think that we would be having. I think the both genders would be at war with each other. That's what I think would be happening if Hillary Clinton was.
Well, I'll tell you this: that black men. I'm not speaking for all of us here, but black men are some of the most misogynistic people on the planet.
Wow.
Thank you. You know what? Let me tell you something.
I don't know.
I'm pitching that to you, Zoe.
Yeah. I don't. Listen, when you talk about black men in America, you have to understand most black men in America, especially the ones that are considered successful, you can't really be successful unless you capitulate to some degree to the overall system.
I don't agree with that.
I definitely agree with that. 100%.
Well, you said it because you would agree with
I definitely
yourself.
agree with that. But I just think you can't. I think black men in America don't have a narrative that they write themselves.
No,
that I agree with.
Capitulation is a very weak-minded ideal, but the narrative we writing ourselves is actually very true. I mean, history is an amazing word because, for us it's not his story. It's written by somebody else.
Exactly.
And it's a fable that we've all kind of agreed on.
That's not because we capitulate. I mean,
you kind of got to capitulate.
Okay, hold on one second here. Okay,
First
wait.
I
was about to say.
Yeah, I hit you with insatiable earlier.
I like insatiable.
Y'all three niggas. Look.
Okay, Can we all agree that 1, 2, not you, 3 are some loquacious motherfuckers? Okay,
loquacious.
But literally,
why do you like that?
Hold on, because he knows.
You got a big.
G-O-I-L-E.
The biggest word I know is Gallivant.
But out of
you
all
go
the people
outside.
at the table last night, who was at the BET Awards? Raise your hand. Who was? But no. Who was a part of the singular most important statement for black people in the last 24 hours? Raise your hand.
Damn, that was deep.
So I mean, regardless of what we say, whatever, I'm with you.
Thank you for building me up and not breaking me down.
I'm right here.
Melissa breaks you down every time she gets a chance.
But I am not a wordy person. Melissa
don't have to be.
is one of the most intuitive.
Ooh.
Wow.
2 times.
Okay.
Smartest people I've met in my
Touche.
Just next time, don't put most in smartest. Just
don't do that. Don't. Then he's gonna attack him on the grammar. then he gonna ding him on the grammar. Don't do that.
we're like capitulate.
Wow.
What the fuck does that mean?
So that's what we're talking about though is that we have to be able to message to our people.
Right.
And we have to meet people where they are. And for a long period of time, Democrats, especially, I could care less about what the Republican Party is doing, have taken black voters for granted and have not met black voters where they are. And so, as much as we talk about Trump and Russia, when I'm in the barbershop, people do talk about,
that's the best talk.
Oh yeah. My barber is probably the most insightful brother you'll ever meet in your life. He has a daughter, he has a new girlfriend, he's trying to figure out these things.
He's doing his thing.
He's doing his thing.
Okay, cool.
And he's working every day. He just got, he just got ownership of the barbershop, trying to figure out new things and living every day. And so they talk about like healthcare.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, criminal justice reform. You know, whether or not their little brother is now going to have to go to another, unfounded war. I mean, they're talking about real issues, and that's what we have to do. We have to meet people where they are, and not necessarily use words like loquacious or insane.
You know what? No.
But that's
Hold on.
fine.
Whoa, motherfucking whoa. Hold on one second here. Hold on one second here. Just so you guys know, when we're talking about the word capitulate, it basically means to
Surrender.
yeah. Thank you. I was gonna say
Go along to get along is surrendering.
Thank you, because I wouldn't even have known how to simplify it. I was gonna say kowtow, and people would be like, Melissa,
Same
shut
thing.
the fuck up.
Same thing.
A great word.
It's a great word.
Exactly. But they would be like, Melissa, what?
So
the
let me
fuck-
ask you a question.
I need to start reading at the
Since
source.
this is what's the name?
You do.
Of it? It's
You
Hollywood.
needed the
Give me
source.
Hollywood Unlocked Uncensored.
Hollywood Unlocked Uncensored. Since you guys are are we in Hollywood now?
Yes, we are in
Yes.
Hollywood.
I want everybody. Denmark. I'm gonna look at the camera because Melissa always looks at the camera when she's.
He's doing a commercial. Let's get out of his way. He's a politician.
I have 3 stoplights and a blinking light where I'm from, and so I want you to know this is huge. So I think that what you see when you say black men capitulate is like a very, very Hollywood, LA thing. So my question to you all is like, what happened to somebody like Kanye West?
His mom passed and he
wow.
lost his mind.
Here we go.
I think,
Is it that easy though?
No, I think I think it's over the. It was a gradual process. I think that his mother passed away. I don't think that he dealt with it from in terms of
Accepted
seeking
it.
not even accepted it, but reached out to a mental health professional to assist him with what he was going through. I mean, like we all need therapy.
But how do you go from college dropout to anti-intellectualism in a span of a decade?
Fame.
Well, that's what I just said. That's what I literally just.
I agree.
I literally just said that.
It's true.
That's
it's
wrong.
True.
You did him like that.
I
Don't
agree
do
with
it.
that.
It's true.
Why can't he just
This
be
is a little bit true.
dealing with a lot? Why can't he just be stressed?
I mean,
I think it's all of the above.
and then the spotlight is on him.
All of the above. He's
Constantly.
under a microscope.
Yeah.
It's all of the above. I believe.
Are you
that.
under a microscope
Well,
too? Though
I mean,
not so
here's
much.
the thing. When my mother,
why did she just?
when my mother passed
knows I love
away,
him.
when my mother passed away, the last thing I had said and said to my mother was "fuck you," because my mother wasn't in my life at all. My grandmother raised me. My mother was in and out of my life. She fell between the cracks.
Of society.
Of society from Gary, Indiana.
Are you from
And
Gary?
I'm from Gary, Indiana. Yeah. So my mother passed away.
Got to ask
And-
about that.
Well,
in a
Michael
second.
Jackson is from Gary. Don't
Yes,
move too
but go
fast. Come on. Jeez.
my mother. I told my mother that last thing. I said, "Fuck you." I called home. My mother picked up. I said, "Yo, just let me talk to my grandma." Days and days and days and days and days and days went by. Nobody was picking up the phone. My grandmother picked up. I'm thinking something happened to my grandmother because she lives alone. Thank God she's still with me today. She told me, I said, "Grandma, why the hell you ain't been picking up the phone?" She said, "Your mother passed away." And this was 3 days after my mother was in the ground. So immediately I booked the plane. I was on tour with Omarion at the time, dancing. I remember the next day getting a ticket home, crying my heart and soul out on the plane because the last thing I told my mother was "fuck you."
Right.
So how do you deal with that pain now?
So
though?
to get there to coincide with Kanye, I never accepted or I never forgave myself.
I
That's
mean,
the key.
you know what?
For-
Honestly, he might feel the exact same way
Yeah.
that you do because his mother died on the operating table getting elective surgery.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he might feel like there was like he had some kind of responsibility to her to tell her, "No, Ma, you don't need to do all that," or whatever the case is. We don't know the circumstances, but that's
But I mean,
Yeah.
it highlights a larger problem because
mean,
one of the
it's-
things that black men don't do is talk about mental health because
that,
it's a
Listen,
that part.
Depression.
My mother
and-
passed when I was 21. I'm 32 now. And I still
Bakari,
have,
you thought he was 45, right? You
I
did.
still
know you
have
did.
problems.
I mean, with friends like this, who needs Republicans?
I mean,
I
she's
still have problems accepting
I'm
it.
in
I think about it
Jason's
every
chair.
day. So
Or-
it's a
or
mental-
Democrats,
It's
for
a
that
We
matter.
having
mental
our own
thing.
conversation over here.
It's a mental thing today that I still deal with.
I was
knowing that-
I was on the Breakfast Club a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about the fact that I deal with anxiety on a regular basis. But that was my I forgot the camera. I forget because I was talking to one of my good friends, Charlemagne, and
Yeah.
he has a book coming out, and I was like, that's what I deal with, and we just don't talk about these issues. However, to kind of pivot back, there's certain times like you have an amazing platform here, you utilized your platform last night, and so there's a certain level of responsibility that comes with the platform.
Right.
And so my question regarding Kanye is a larger issue because I think that we have far too many African Americans, especially African American men, who pervert their platform.
But you know what? I think before you can get them to respect the platform, acknowledge the platform's power, you first have to deal with the
Their lack of
cynicism
self-awareness
around mental illness or mental health, the cynicism around the political process. So, there's when you look at the average black man, there's cynicism around going to the doctor. Period.
We hate going to the doctor.
Let me.
You see what I mean? So you have to deal with that part first.
I hear this. So I do sometimes. I'm starting a foundation now, and we're doing these things, and sometimes you hear. It blends into these other issues that we have.
It does. So, this is what I wanted to say. Let me put something, let me make something straight. I love black men.
You see how she just looked at the camera?
I saw
because
that.
this is how I run the motherfucking show.
She's looking for confirmation. Just look at us.
Okay.
Wait a minute. You just said you loved us. What's going on?
I love you. Fuck you.
Okay, cool.
No, but let me say this. I love black men. I love everything about black men. I was raised by a black man, an alpha male. God, he was my bestie, but I had a healthy dose of fear for the man because that bestie shit went out the window when I acted up. And what I think happens to you guys is so sad that you are never really allowed to be children. When you are children, you are forced to man up so early. And our current reality is showing us this, where young kids are going out and they're just getting gunned down in the streets and whatever. Because
police see adults, they don't see children.
Exactly.
Tamir Rice. What did they say on the 911 tape? We got a grown man out
here. And he had a toy gun.
He was 12 years old.
On a playground.
They saw an adult.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our reality.
So to go into mental health, it's almost like you're not allowed to display any form of vulnerability because it's processed as weakness.
I mean, even amongst ourselves, though.
You guys do yourselves a disservice by the rhetoric, the barbershop rhetoric that you guys have constantly. You don't say,
but you also had
nigga, cry if you need to.
But you also had you also had an entire generation of black men that were taken away from society.
Well, that goes back to your point initially.
Vietnam War type. That's what you mean?
No. Even slavery.
Yeah.
Oh, slavery. Okay, I didn't know how far we were going back.
I was actually going to 1994 with the 94 crime bill.
Your
mass incarceration.
The Clinton homies.
Well, not only the Clintons. But not only the Clintons.
So let's get back to that.
Let me just remind people though that not only was it the Clintons, but it was Joe Biden who wrote the bill.
Sure.
It was black preachers in the Congressional Black Caucus who were supporting the bill because they felt as if crack was an epidemic that we needed to put people in jail for. But you compare it, what's the versus? The opioid epidemic when we treat it as a public health crisis.
Exactly.
And so white kids need to be treated and black kids need to go to jail.
Incarcerated.
And we took an entire generation, of black males out of society and didn't give them any tools to reintegrate.
100% agree. But this takes me back to the Greek meaning of the word politics, theater. I see it as all a play.
Oh, it is. I mean, and we've got a reality.
You're cynical as hell.
I am. I mean, that's why I was.
You were talking about yourself.
Yes, but I represent a demographic of black men.
That's a very true demographic.
And I think in order for you to believe in the process, you're going to have to deal with what makes black men cynical. Because there are a lot of people that refuse to capitulate. Right.
Surrender, people. Surrender.
To surrender to a system that they feel is targeting them.
Yeah.
And you can't have a public enemy unless there are some real systemic problems on both sides, Republican and Democrat.
Or Flavor Flav.
What?
Y'all didn't get that.
Okay, there's a couch outside.
Public enemy
or Flavor Flav.
Now I'm starting to treat her like Melissa. There's a couch outside. Go lay down.
Public enemy. Continue.
I agree with that. My only response is that if you're not involved or engaged, then the world will pass you by.
Yeah.
And so there are decisions that are made every day that affect our lives. Many times they're made on your hyper local level, but there are decisions that are made. I mean, the way now that the federal government is treating drug crimes in the federal government. Now, mind you, we only have 2.2 million people incarcerated. Only 200,000 of them are incarcerated in the federal system. 2 million of them are incarcerated in your state system. But of those 200,000, that's going to double.
Right.
And so one of the things this Trump administration is afraid of is the year 2043. And why is 2043 important? I mean, it's an amazing number because that is the year that the census and your scholars tell you that for the first time in the history of this country, white Americans will be a minority.
Let's get as many of these niggers in the cage as we can. Let's get them in the box.
But it ain't about, and they're really not even worried about black folk anymore because we have a criminal justice system which kind of takes care of that.
Wow.
So now they focus the attention on our immigrant brothers and sisters who
It's
are
coming, yeah.
And so literally we're going to put more people in a military base. I'm still 33. My voice is cracked.
No, I got
we
you.
still have military base confinement than Japanese internment camps.
Wow.
And so when you start to look at what's going on around us, that's why you can't. I understand the cynicism. So my only thing is to quote Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
I think it was Ronald. Well, yeah, to quote Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. So my question, my statement to you is that with your cynicism, ask more questions. That might have been Richard Nixon, but I think it was Ronald Reagan.
And I think you're right about the question asking, but there has to be some answering. And,
No. You answer yourself though.
I feel like everybody feels
No,
like
I
they've
agree
got
with
the
you. You
answer.
go out, you go do the research, but I think the
Which people don't
outreach
like to
has
do.
to be different. The
I agree
outreach
with
has
that.
to be
Yeah,
different.
no, I agree with that.
Okay,
You know.
well, let's talk about the immigration situation that's happening at the borders currently right now. Because when you get online and you see all of the images, Time Magazine had a really prolific image on their cover recently with that little girl whose mother had gotten detained. She was 2 years old, and she's standing there and she's wailing, and she is just the complete and total depiction of just despair. And her mom's being arrested, and then you've got this picture of Donald Trump, off to the right margin of the photo, just looking down at her like, and you just wonder what he's thinking, and he's probably thinking, should I kick it? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Wow.
seriously, no, but I know
Yes, we can't. No. You see what I did there?
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I'm following your
Speaking of
lead.
Time Magazine, you was in Time Magazine
I was,
2010,
look at him,
40 under
research.
40.
I was 40 under 40.
Wow.
And that's a huge accolade.
That's huge.
I love Time Magazine. I've
I
been
don't
a
mean,
subscriber
but
for
it's
years.
huge until you get 33 and you're like, what am I going to do now? I mean, that was like 2
still under
years
40,
ago.
but you're still under 40.
Okay, so Bakari,
But can I
Yes.
just throw this out there?
Yes, please.
So that image was used inappropriately.
okay,
So,
educate us.
Yeah, that image wasn't actually. Time Magazine made a huge.
Oh no! They made the image. It wasn't.
No.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that girl was not actually separated from her father. She was her father was Honduran, if I'm not mistaken, and she actually was not separated. So you have a lot of my friends on the right who are yelling fake news, blah 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 blah
Fake,
blah.
I was going to say fake
Okay,
news.
so wait,
And
what's the circumstances behind that photo? Because that's what it looked like. It looked like yet another child who'd been ripped from her mother's breast.
No, she was. The family was detained, but there was no separation, and so my only point in telling you that is that people will move the ball on you. So now there's this huge controversy around the fact that the image wasn't what was portrayed.
But that
on-
doesn't take away from the fact
Exactly.
that there is thousands of children that
and
have been taken away from their families. And you know what's scary is the fact that even though he's written that executive order that kind of backtracks on the
Right.
policy and whatnot, that there's still these children that have been displaced and can't locate their families.
No, they put them on a plane, and they send them to, many of the kids go to Florida, and your mom or dad is in Phoenix, Arizona,
Right.
and then they give you what's called a tear sheet with a number on it, and you press 1 for English and 2 for Spanish, and you hope to relocate.
How did they
Wow.
find their child or their?
They don't.
A lot of them are not finding their
They don't.
children.
So what happens is you have an executive order in place which kind of helps, and they say they've reunified 500 and some odd families. I don't
Yeah, but there
necessarily
was
buy
thousands
that,
of kids that were separated
Yeah.
from their families. So
But
I could not imagine.
But I think you also.
So now what they're going to do with the executive order is, so you're like, okay, they have an executive order, so we'll keep families together. So what happens then? Oh, you just put the whole family.
into the
Into the
internment
camp.
camp.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what do you?
Okay, we'll just sort this out later.
So what do you-
Everybody go into the camp.
And so and
And,
ask you. So the next question you ask is, what crime are they committing?
I was about to say. So what do you say to the people who get online and they're just like mega?
She's
and they-
Canadian. She said online.
She did say that.
That's a foreign. We need
Yes.
to check your papers.
She's not even American. I don't even know what we're
I don't
talking
even know
about.
what she's talking about.
She's from Crenshaw.
fucking
All this time, you found out Melissa Ford was from Crenshaw.
you
Jesus.
fucking suicide bombers! You're blowing blowing up my spot.
She doesn't even know the. She doesn't know the words to the national anthem.
Listen,
she probably kneels. She
Her
kneels.
visa's about to expire.
I do.
She know that Childish Gambino stay woke
Listen,
though.
motherfuckers, stop talking. My shit is about to expire. Okay, I'm calling my immigration lawyer when I get out of here. Anyway, so what do you say to the guys to the people who are online talking about, well, if these people wouldn't come across the borders committing a crime, then they wouldn't be separated from their families? Like, what do you say to people who have that kind of mentality, not even trying to process the fact that they're running for their lives in their respective countries? You know, like, what do you say to that?
So the cynical answer is that, you know,
and what is the
crime they committed is a civil crime. At most, it's a misdemeanor.
I was about to say it's a misdemeanor.
It's really a status offense,
Right.
Which is civil,
Right.
They're prosecuting as a misdemeanor, which is fine. And then I would retort that, you know, somebody like Jared Kushner, for example, lying on his SF 86 form is actually a felony, and he lied over.
There's no such thing as white criminality. It's fine.
Yeah, and so,
Right.
and
Sorry, Cole.
so
White male criminality.
that
We're
would be
good.
my cynical response.
We're good.
My you know, I would then challenge them to read the words on the Statue of Liberty. And, you know, we are a country. I said this on CNN the other night. I was like, look, Jason Miller was on, who's the former communications director for Trump. And I said, look, he kept saying we're a country of laws. And I said, we are a country of laws. I agree. I mean, you can't have a country, can't have a union without laws.
Right.
But we're also a country of immigrants.
But the irony is
That was
these
profound.
are-
Can you let that sit for a minute? Let that have we're a country of immigrants too. Let that sit.
Right.
Let it simmer.
Let's just let it simmer.
Okay, now okay.
Here's a sprinkle. Okay. But that's the irony. We are a country of immigrants. And all these white folk that are here came in
They
as
stole the land.
immigrant and stole everything
Yeah.
and now calls everyone else immigrants.
Yeah.
That's the irony of the whole thing.
How many times have each of you been told, go back to your country? It's just like, you stole us and now you're telling us to go back? What
I get that all the
fuck
time.
kind of shit
Go
is
back.
that?
What? Okay.
I get that all.
Go back to Africa, monkey.
I get that all the time.
That's crazy.
Y'all should read my
Monkey
feed.
on there. I should read your feed.
My feed.
His Twitter feed. Jeez Louise.
I don't know where you from.
He
Reading
even
feed.
hears slow.
I heard the viewers are gonna let you have it. They hate when y'all attack me. They
Gio,
hate
let me
that
tell you
shit.
I'm on
something.
your team.
I heard feet.
You want to know what you sound like right
I
now?
heard feet.
You sound like Permit Patty right now with your white entitlement. That's what you fucking sound
I'm
like when you
definitely
talk
not
about the
white.
Geo Army.
I heard about
You have,
Geo Army.
you have a
Get
Geo
'em.
Army?
Yes.
Man.
Hashtag
Hey, man, we
Geo
respect
Army.
the Geo Army.
be
Yeah,
on-
we do.
Listen, I graduated top 10 from my high school. I might not know all these big words and all that shit.
Okay, just pick up a
but
thesaurus or a dictionary.
I'm very
once in a while.
educated when it comes to these streets.
Okay, cool. Well, all right.
All right.
So you can go to your straight. You know what,
I
Zoe?
fucks with you though.
Let me tell you one goddamn thing, Zoe.
Fucks with you.
You gonna come over with this goddamn salt and pepper beard?
Okay.
Hey man, you know.
Okay, so let's
Seasoned.
let's bring it back to Bakari. Okay, so Bakari, would you say that you are friends with Hillary Clinton?
In his mind.
Yeah. I mean, that's yeah.
That's your homegirl.
I was never in. When I started, I was one of the first black people to actually believe in Barack Obama. Because South Carolina is the first primary in the South. Actually, was the co-chair of Barack Obama's campaign back in 2007. So we were on the train when there was nobody else there. When he was just,
Wow.
and so it took me a very long time to get into Clinton world.
Right.
And so 2015, 16, I was a very big supporter because I knew what the alternative was.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of my cynical friends and a lot of my friends who are further to the left of me, I think we now see the fallacies in the lesser of two evil argument.
Oh, absolutely.
Because now you have evil, and you could have had Hillary Clinton, and you have things that you.
But I'm confused. Is
Evil
Hillary
and
not
demonic.
evil?
So
Yeah,
here,
that's
no,
what
so
I'm
no,
saying.
no. Wait,
I
wait.
So a lot of the caricatures of Hillary Clinton are still caricatures.
I know what that is.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
let's.
So a lot of the caricatures of Hillary Clinton just emerged from, a lot of talking points that came from the early 90s, mid 90s.
Super predator.
Super Predator.
So-
Margaret Sanger. All the videos we hear acknowledging Margaret.
Margaret. Okay.
I'm just saying,
But I mean, you can't.
these are
but
things
you,
that are
but
out
you
there.
can't. You can't talk. So let's talk about Super Predator.
Yes.
Yes.
Super Predator is just completely effed up. She apologized for it. We need to have a conversation. You got it. You
letting
have to
it go.
evolve. We gotta dig through that and understand what it is. Super predator was actually a term used, and when you listen to the context of it, there's no excuse for it. It was a term that was used often during that time. It was research about Mexican and Hispanic gangs.
Right.
She attributed to black people, and I'm like, whoa, chill, you can't do that. And so, thank you so much. And so, yeah, you got to hold people accountable for that. But when Margaret Sanger, I mean, we're talking about Planned Parenthood. You can't discount the work.
Okay, so wait, for our audience, our audience, can we put into context who Margaret Sanger is?
Sure.
I don't know.
No, go ahead, bro.
No, you brought her up. Go ahead. Because I want to talk about No, I want to talk about the good work that Planned Parenthood does. I'm not going to step back from because of Margaret Sanger. Like the 3% of the work that Planned Parenthood does are abortions. 3%. But there are many people, especially black women, who wouldn't get mammograms, who wouldn't get pap smears, who wouldn't get their, I mean, a long list of services without Planned Parenthood. So, yeah, I understand your historical criticism of Margaret Sanger is very valid.
Right.
However, to juxtapose that against the reality we live in today is where that loses.
But see, this is what real conversation is about, especially when it comes to politics and African Americans getting involved.
Did you put anything in that, or did you just put?
If Jason was here right now.
But especially if we want African Americans involved, we got to give context.
No, I hear that, but
I'm saying the party has to educate the constituents.
And my fault was that I did a disservice to Hilary Clinton, and I did a disservice to our people.
How?
Because I went out and told people who Donald Trump was. Right? Repeatedly. Didn't lie to you. It's the same person who was sued for racial discrimination. When he had housing apartments in New York, he would mark C on the application for color. He was sued by black dealers in Atlantic City.
Wow.
The Central Park Five. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Right.
And so my assumption was that there would be a larger group of people who were able to rebuke that and still come out and get energized and bring their friends, understanding what the alternative was. But that wasn't the case because, 13% of black men voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
I understand some of those.
Right.
Some of those still go back to the 94 crime bill.
So wait, hold on a second. That's the only reason that they voted for Donald Trump was because of their distaste for Hillary Clinton.
No, the 94 crime bill.
No, I know. Them voting for Donald Trump, it goes back to their distaste for her because of the 94 crime bill and the super predator comments.
Some of that does.
Okay.
Some of it's also misogyny.
Misogyny, where they just could not have a woman.
Because you'll be surprised when I'm in the barbershop, how many people say, man, I can't have no woman running the country.
Why? Because if she comes on her period, then there's 1 week at the month.
Oh, yeah, she gonna blow some
How about this? She's gone through menopause.
She ain't getting no goddamn period.
But I would say
the hormones are in check.
I would say any concept of misogyny.
That ad lib was
hard.
Yeah.
I would say any concept of misogyny that black men have, I think is learned. Just like in a household, you model your parents, but we also model our country. We model our communities. And black men have always been marginalized by this community. And what is the paragon of power?
What community are we talking about?
I'm talking about the African American community at large.
But that's not true because black women take care of us more than anybody else.
Thank you. Say it again.
Absolutely. But we model ourselves after this community. And I'm talking about when we talk about wealth.
We don't have wealth.
I know that. So who is the paragon of wealth in America? It's the white man.
Jay-Z and Beyonce. Okay, sorry.
They're not wealthy either.
But it's the white man. In comparison to black men, it's the white man. And nobody is as misogynist as the white man, as evidenced by Donald Trump himself. So we're modeling, and I'm saying black men are not only modeling white. I'm not saying it's an excuse. I'm saying this is the nature of, this is who we are. We've modeled white wealth, or we've tried to mimic it. We don't have it. White people have 90% of the wealth. Black people have 2.6% of the nation's wealth.
So we adopt the mannerisms.
But we also mimic the white man's freedom to just dominate and disrespect everything. That's a symbol of power in America.
Can we talk about wealth? Can we talk about wealth real quick?
Please do, yes.
Because y'all live in Hollywood. Y'all don't know anybody. Y'all don't know a singular wealthy black person?
Shit.
I do.
I do.
I don't know.
No, you know rich black people.
No, I know.
No, I know
wealthy.
wealthy black
Nah,
Does Will Smith
It's a
count?
difference.
nah.
Does Quincy Jones count?
Does
no,
Floyd Mayweather count?
no, definitely not.
Shit.
Does
You know rich black people.
Okay, so you're talking about like, having like $10 billion kind
So
of
this
wealth.
is this what I'm
That's
talking about.
well,
Are you- are you talking about-
yeah,
You're right.
oh, yeah.
Let me give you an
So
example.
in that case-
let me give you an example. I
do know
So during the process of the Carolina Panthers, the sale price, $2.2 billion. Right. So of all those people you named, in order to purchase the Carolina Panthers, you would have to put in $700 million in cash.
Off tops.
Okay? Cash.
Okay.
That is the majority
Liquid.
of cash. So Quincy Jones, could he put in $700 million and live tomorrow?
No.
Oprah Winfrey is probably the only person you know, and that's probably all of her cash.
Well, we don't know her.
Will Smith. Will Smith. No.
Yeah.
So
We
my
don't know
point
her.
to you is that we know people who are rich.
Right.
Really, 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 really rich.
That's fine, but we don't
Yeah.
know people who are
Well,
wealthy.
wealthy.
Or
and we actually don't
generationally
even,
wealthy.
So
Agreed.
we know they ain't generational.
So is this your?
We're still
That's
making our money.
So is,
Yeah, that's
is this
agreed.
your valid?
That's
example?
agreed.
Is this your valid example of saying that wealthy, the white, 96% of the wealth comes from white people, a white man?
They control it?
Yeah.
They control 90% of the wealth.
So when you say that, we're talking about like the Bill Gates, the Warren Buffetts.
They give a lot. Those two that you named.
But they're wealthy, right?
Oh, no question.
So I'm trying to see. There's no wealthy black person besides the.
I mean, I
African-
think Oprah is
the
there.
African queen.
Oprah's there, but I mean,
She's
if
there.
I mean, name two.
He can't. It's not going to happen.
You
Bakari.
can you?
She can't either.
No,
But-
you're
but-
right.
but
I'm not
you
going to
might
claim
be able.
that I
Let me
can.
just let me
He's
clarify.
making the
You may
point,
be able to
yeah.
go. You may be able to go to the continent of Africa.
Yeah.
And there's
And
a couple of
find-
billionaires there.
3 or 4
Yeah.
Billionaires.
who are billionaires who can do this. But I'm saying, and I think Deshaun would agree with me in this, because when you,
That was deep.
I think that we misunderstand what being rich and being wealthy is.
Sure. Sure.
And we
I mean,
definitely don't have generational wealth.
But sure, there's a gigantic, enormous chasm of inequality when it comes to wealth in America. Like
question.
I said before, 90% of the nation's wealth is in the hands of white people. Only 2.6% is in the hands of black people. 2% of that is in the hands of baby boomers. The other 0.6% is in the hands of everyone else, Oprah included.
Right.
So when we talk wealth, I mean, that's something
So
that's
for me.
we
for
just
me,
don't have.
For me, that's a teaching moment. That's what we build on. That's what you educate young people.
Right.
That's how you talk to them about investing and 401ks and those type things, because that's important to build generational wealth. Because when you have this conversation, they'd be like, "Man, Jamie Foxx wealthy?" No. Okay.
So hold on. So one other thing, because I know that we got to wrap up because you have to go. You have
This is good.
I know it is. I know. I only got him for a fucking hour. You know what I'm saying?
You're very
Wait,
disrespectful. Next time.
I love you.
No,
So I told you.
Disrespectful.
I told you how important it was going to be for you to
bar.
be on today's show because you know what I'm saying.
no, he's a smart guy.
I
like
know
it.
that. And that's why he's my friend. Okay. Anyways,
Okay,
I
claim
digress. Okay. So we're educating our audience today, and you are on the board of directors of Let America Vote.
Correct.
Okay, so let's talk about voter suppression because and the midterm elections that are coming up.
Correct.
A lot of people feel that that their vote doesn't count. What's the point, or whatever the case is? Like, give us a little bit of a just a tiny
Spectrum, a broader spectrum.
a brochure, kind
So-
of education.
Donald Trump is president of the United States because of 90,000 votes.
Yeah.
A few thousand in Wisconsin, a few thousand in Michigan, and a few thousand in
Indiana.
Pennsylvania.
I know I'm from Indiana. They voted for him too.
Yeah, but I mean, we could have won, but for a couple 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 votes
The
in
votes
Pennsylvania.
were dispersed.
In those 3 states. If Hillary Clinton wins those 3 states, Donald Trump is not president of the United States.
Right.
And in those 3 states, she lost by a combined vote total of less than 100,000 votes.
That's really
So for everybody who says their vote doesn't matter, their vote definitely matters.
Okay,
And
so
we
the
have
big-
we have young people of color, right? So let me take time to mention somebody like Andrew Gillum, who is leading the polls in Florida right now, running for governor in the Democratic primary. Great guy, Mayor of Tallahassee. Stacey Abrams could be she just won the primary in Georgia. She could be the first black female governor in the history of the United States. Mandela Barnes. I mean, we have people throughout the entire country who are running, and we just need to support them. I mean, it's possible. You're gonna have at least You got 2, possibly 3 African Americans running for president of the United States.
But I don't think people are really people understand elections as it relates to Democrats, Republicans, and the presidential election. They don't really understand midterm elections. They don't understand electing senators and electing congressmen or congresswomen. They don't kind of understand the mid-level politics and politicians that would, possibly stand for what it is that they want to see, the change that they want to see. So like, what's your advice to people who want to get involved in voting in the midterm elections? What kind of homework do they need to do in terms of, making sure that they will be able to legally vote?
Well, first of all, Black people have a propensity to vote every 4 years, and we kind of skip the middle.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we gave Barack Obama 2 really, really horrible Congresses to work with in the middle there. And so I oftentimes tell people that Eric Garcetti in LA has more impact on your life than Donald Trump does.
Right. I agree with that.
Your local officials,
Local voting.
Your school boards,
participate
your
in.
water commissioners, all of those things. I mean, there are some elections, especially here in California. This is where the epicenter of the House changing. If the House changes, then you can stifle Donald Trump's agenda.
Nice.
There are about 8 seats here that Democrats need to win. And so, I've tried the argument that people died. My father was shot, and people literally died so that you would have the right to vote. And there's really a disconnect, and people don't really care about that message anymore. They're like, okay, I know the history.
Right.
Maybe they don't appreciate it as much as I do, which is fine. But you're talking about a woman's right to choose. You're talking about student loan debt. You're talking about home affordability. You're talking about small business loans. I was in the barbershop chair the other day, and the barber who was cutting my hair was talking about building a new shop. Where do I get access to these resources? And so those are all things that are controlled by the vote, and we need to participate. I don't care if you vote Democrat or Republican at the very basic level. I think that if you are paying attention, you would know who to vote for. But I really just need us to show up. And
what do you say about people like me? Unfortunately, I can't vote.
He's a felon.
I'm a felon. Even those votes still matter.
So what you need to do is you should take it upon yourself to figure out who your member is in the South Carolina General Assembly, right? And you need to make sure that felons, as long as you're off your papers, can vote. So in South Carolina, we have some of the best reentry laws. It's one of the rare things that we're leading the country in, because if you're off your papers, you can vote. So as long as you're not on probation, parole, you can vote.
Oh, good. So next year I should be able to.
That's South Carolina.
Are you going to move?
And so what I'm saying is that you need to identify your local elected officials and build that relationship.
Duly noted.
Okay. Well, there you go, Gio.
Duly noted.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so we got to wrap things up because I know that you have to go do Aisha Tyler's show.
I'm doing Aisha Tyler's new show tonight.
AMC. I love her.
Yeah, she's amazing.
I'm such a fan. Like
so it's a great show. So Netflix, not Netflix, DVR.
Okay,
Netflix,
perfect.
DVR.
So tell everybody where they can find you. You do not have an Instagram.
I do have an
page.
Instagram, but I'm not nearly as as.
Have you liked any of my pictures?
Definitely not.
And then that part, she's trying to
Good
get you.
idea.
She's trying to get you in a trick bag.
idea.
Right. Do you have a website and thing?
I don't have a but
Like
Twitter is Bakari_sellers, and then Instagram is Bakari sellers.
But where can people, if they want to do some, reading and research, Let America Vote? Do they have a website?
So letamericavote.org is amazing, just so you can figure out what your voting laws are in your particular state, when to vote, those type things.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming
Thank you.
by.
Keep educating the people.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna try. I promise you.
Thank you for coming by, Bakari.
Yes, thank you, Zoe, for filling in.
This was great.
Yeah.
I love the back
So I
and
love
forth
you,
banter, man.
Yeah, man. Great, man.
Good stuff.
I love when you come up here because we get to gang up.
Sorry, I had
No,
to put y'all
I
in
don't
some
gang up on him.
perspective. No, nobody gang up on me.
This is my guy right here.
Gio, I love you.
I love
Gee.
No,
you
she
too.
doesn't. She
But
does
I'm
not.
so glad I was able to, school y'all on some deep shit that's going on in the world today.
Thank you,
Thank
man.
y'all.
Thank you,
Watching
Gio,
Hollywood Unlocked
Okay.
Uncensored.
for your
Yeah.
guidance.
Thank you all for tuning in. Bye, everybody.